Hello students, welcome to e-tutorial. Today I will explain tissue. In this video I will explain only plant tissues. We will discuss about animal tissues in my upcoming video. Students, in earlier chapter we studied about cell and its structure. We know that a cell is a structural and functional unit of living beings. Now we will study about tissues. What is tissues? When many similar cells work together to perform the similar function, this group of cells is called as tissues. We can also define tissues as a tissue is a group of similar cells performing a specific function. For example, muscular tissue made up of muscle cells. Students, we know that tissues are made up of cells. These tissues together contributing to some specific functions inside the body and constitute an organ. Many organs acting together to perform a specific life process constitute an organ system, and organ system together constitute the organism. Students, as I have explained you about tissue, now I will explain you about plant tissues. Mainly plant tissues are of two types, meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Meristematic tissue cell can easily multiply to produce new cells, whereas permanent tissues have non-dividing and specialized cells. First, we will take meristematic tissue or meristem. These tissues are found at all growing point of plant, such as root tips, shoot tips, and branches. They are also present between the bark and the wood of trees, where it leads to growth in the diameter of stem. There are some characteristics of meristematic tissues. In meristematic tissues, cells are small and cuboidal. Cell wall is thin. Nuclei is large. In meristematic tissue, vacuoles are almost absent. These cells are tightly packed with no intercellular space. These cells are actively divide and form new cells. New cells are transformed into mature permanent tissues. The meristematic tissues can be classified into three categories: apical meristems, which is also called terminal meristem, then lateral meristem, it is also called cambium, and intercalary meristem. First we will take apical meristem. Apical meristem located near the tips of root, shoot, and also in the growing young leaves, as well as on the tips of axillary buds. Lateral meristem located below the bark and help to increase in the girth of the stem. Intercalary meristem present at internodes or stem between the places at which leaves attach. Now we will discuss about permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are the plant tissues that have lost the ability to grow and divide. They are mature and assume a permanent shape to perform some permanent functions. On the basis of their functions, permanent tissues are of three types. First, protective tissues, then supporting tissue, and conducting tissues. First is protective tissues. Cells of protective tissue have thick cell walls. They are present on the surface of roots, stems, and leaves. For example, epidermis of leaves which secretes a waxy waterproof materials. Now, supporting tissues. Supporting tissues are of several types. Three types of supporting tissues are most important. That is parenchyma, Collenchyma, and Sclerenchyma. First is parenchyma. Parenchymatous cells are large, thin-walled, oval, circular or polygonal in shape. They have single large vacuole and large intercellular space. They found in soft parts of plants such as cortex, which are outer region, and in the pith, which is central region. Some parenchymatous cells contain chloroplast and help in photosynthesis. They are called Chlorenchyma, for example, in leaves. Some parenchymatous cells found in aquatic plants having large air cavities. They are termed as Parenchyma. Next supporting tissue is Collenchyma. Cells of Collenchyma are elongated. Cell wall is thickened at the corners. These are found in leaf stalks and below the epidermis of stems. It helps to support the parts of a plant. Third supportive tissue is Sclerenchyma. They are responsible for making plants hard and rigid. These are made up of long, narrow, dead cells having thick cell wall made up of lignin. They provide strength to plant parts. Sclerenchymatous cells are found in stem and veins of leaf, covering of nuts and seeds. These three categories are grouped as simple tissues. Now, third permanent tissue is conducting tissue. It is also called as vascular tissue. It provides a passage for water and dissolved materials to move up and down in the plants, so it is also called transport system for the plants. There are two types of conducting tissues, xylem and phloem. The xylem and phloem are also termed as complex tissues. First is xylem. Xylem cells are elongated and thick-walled. These are water and mineral conducting tissues in the form of tubular passages from the soil by roots to other parts of plant. We can determine the age of a tree by conducting its annual rings, which are the xylem rings. Xylem tissues consist of four elements: tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fiber. Tracheids and vessels are collectively called tracheids elements. First xylem element is tracheids. They are made up of long, spindle-shaped dead cells. They provide mechanical support by developing types of thickening in their walls. Next is xylem vessels. It has long tube-like structure made up of elongated cells transporting water and minerals vertically in plants. Third xylem element is xylem parenchyma. They consist of living parenchyma cells. It stores food and help in transportation of water horizontally in plants. Last xylem element is xylem fiber. They made up of dead sclerenchyma cell. These cells are thick-walled and long and narrow. They provide mechanical support to the plants. Students, now we will study about second conductive tissue, which is called phloem. It provides a passage for downward movement of food from leaves to other parts of the plant and upward movement towards the growing new leaves. It consists of four elements. First is sieve tube, then companion cells, phloem parenchyma, and phloem fibers. First phloem element is sieve tubes. They are made up of elongated cells placed end to end forming a long tube with porous walls. They help in the transportation of food from leaves to storage organs and other parts. Next is companion cells. These are living parenchyma cells and closely packed with sieve tube cells. They facilitate the function of the sieve tubes. Next element is phloem parenchyma. It is made up of parenchymatous tissue. It mainly stores starch, fat, and other organic food materials. Last phloem element is phloem fiber. It has sclerenchymatous cells. They mainly provide flexibility and support to the phloem. Xylem and phloem collectively form the vascular bundle. Students, I have summarized all the classification of plant tissue in a flowchart. Look students, plant tissue is of two types, meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Meristematic tissues has immature cells which are capable of division, whereas permanent tissue has mature cells which are incapable of division. Meristematic tissues are of three types, apical meristem, lateral meristem and intercalary meristem, whereas permanent tissues are of three types, protective tissues, supporting tissues and conducting tissues. Protective tissues and supporting tissues are collective tissues which are called simple tissues, and conducting tissue is known as complex tissue. Three most important types of supporting tissues are parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Conducting tissues are of two types, xylem and phloem. Students, that's all for plant tissues. I hope it will be helpful to clear all the concept regarding plant tissues. In my upcoming video, I will explain you about animal tissue. It will upload very soon. If there is any doubt, please let me know in the comment box. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe the channel.